Hello, dear listeners. This is the second part of our two-part episode on the Return of the King. In covering the Return of the King, we've completed our Lord of the Rings read-through. And so if you haven't listened to the other episodes or the first part of the Return of the King coverage, you should definitely do that. Although this episode is pretty great on its own, as we talk about some of the implications of Tolkien's world building to the greater world of fantasy games and Dungeons and Dragons. And we also just ponder that strange question of just what elves do with all of their free time. So as always, we hope you enjoyed the conversation.
The last chapter is great.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. It's poignant. It's melancholy in the way that I want from, again, it feels like it fits with the tone of the saga as a whole. Like it feels like a fitting ending to everything we have seen and been told about this world. It is the stuff in between that I find myself chafing against. In particular, everything after the ring goes in the mountain. I mean, I don't want to say I hated it, but I found it tedious. I found the ring went in the mountain and I was like, wait, there's 75 more pages left.
Yeah.
The scouring of the Shire hasn't happened yet.
I know you said you didn't like the Scouring of the Shire, John. I think if they had gone right to the Scouring of Shire, it would have been awesome, because I think the Scouring of Shire is again an attempt to reckon with consequences in this world. But since there's but
there aren't any.
Yeah, well, that too, and there's several chapters of just parties, or it's we gotta have a party for Aragorn, and now we're having a party for Faramir because he's marrying a lady. I don't know, I just too many parties, and then the consequences aren't really consequences. So
I do the part where Sam and Frodo show up to they get dropped off by the Eagles, and Gandalf's you're gonna be at the King's crowning tomorrow, and they're like, well, what are we gonna wear? And Gandalf's like, yeah, you're gonna wear your fucking dirty ass rags.
Everyone has to know. Everyone must see this. Yeah.
How you guys are filthy and fucked up.
And then Aragorn bows to them, and they're like, whoa.
You can't just get you clean clothes. That didn't feel a little, again, it feels too dickish for Gandalf in a way, but it also feels a little closer in line to what I'd hope from Gandalf.
I like the scene with Butterbur, though. I like where they go back to the prancing pony, and there's this whole conversation with this guy who has absolutely zero frame of reference, who has no ability to comprehend what was going on and what all these people have just been through.
Oh, there's a king again, huh?
Okay. Let me know if he ever shows up around here.
Whoa, huh?
Yeah, and then he's right. What? I also he's I got a lot of other things to worry about right now.
Exactly.
Also, speaking of Butterbur, I found this great little essay by Guy Davenport who talked about taking a class with Tolkien, and he refers to him as just a vague and incomprehensible lecturer, but then he realizes that Butterbur is a name that he sees in Kentucky a lot, and so he basically talks about how Kentucky is essentially the Shire, and Butterbur is one of the names, but he says something he used to have the most extraordinary interest in the people here in Kentucky. He could never get enough of my tales of Kentucky folk. He used to make me repeat family names like Barefoot and Boffin and Baggins and good country names like that. So I like the idea of Tolkien just being man, these names sound great. They remind me of other things, but they're just from Kentucky. I don't know. Interesting bit, but Butterbur was one of them. So
it is true. Tolkien cannot pass up a bucolic moment for sure. And I would not be the first person to levy that critique at him, but it is kind of, it's always interesting, I think, in stories like this to look at what do you get when it's done. Like after the Dark Lord has been dealt with, what is the, you know, the good thing that you get left with? And in this case, what you get is like rural Britain.
Right.
Like the good thing, and I don't mean to sound that my tone sounded a lot more defamatory there than I meant for it to be. There's lovely stuff in rural Britain. There's lovely stuff in rural Kentucky. But the idea that like the thing to aspire to is basically like good old fashioned down home conservative values and a nice nuclear family for Sam.
To be fair, not a nuclear family. That's a non-traditional family arrangement. That is a
poly
when
they're living with Frodo in particular. Yes, that's a throuple right there. Like, for sure. No, that's doubtless. That's doubtless. But after Frodo sails away, and I like that Sam gets to spend eternity with his true love. I think that is a nice, like, I'm not being ironic. I think that's nice.
Right. Oh no, it's absolutely like beautiful.
That's genuinely sort of how I think we are invited to view that.
Right. Yeah.
But nevertheless, like the whole idea that the Shire is the good place and the hobbits are the good people, and nobody really understands how good things are if they're not in the Shire and they're not the hobbits, is just kind of like, oh yeah, like all the world needs is more farmers markets, you know, and that's kind of the feeling I get from the restoration of the Shire after the scouring. It's not like it's bad. It's not like I begrudge it of these characters. It's just like, that's the best we could do, huh?
Yeah,
like
and I wish I wish I could find just briefly. I found some source. I don't remember what it was, but there's a lot is made in the scouring of the Shire of that mill that Saruman builds. There's like a stinking mill that eats up trees.
Satanic mills.
Yeah,
satanic mills.
Yeah, and supposedly Tolkien himself, like, either he was away and came back, or he has this memory of like Buccleuch, England being, ruined by this mill in his neighborhood and it changing everything. So I think like there's something there in terms of, like industrialization, satanic mills as well. But what were you going to say, John?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the thing that kind of drove me craziest with the scouring of the Shire is like, okay, so this is like, society has been like totally reordered for all the hobbits, and they're all like living in workhouses basically, and there's not enough fucking beer, and they can't burn as much wood as they want, and they can't smoke weed. Remember, Ben, it's not tobacco, it's pipe weed. They're different. But then all it takes is just like when Merry or Pippin or whoever is like they just need a fire, like they just need someone to like tell them how fucked up this all is, so they get off their asses and go fight. I was like, oh my god, this is like the like dumbest anarchists idea of like how revolution happens. And then, again, it's like this thing where it's like, okay, well, why couldn't this happen before these guys showed back up? Like, none of the hobbits like this. Everyone hates it. They outnumber all these like ruffians by like 50-1, and Saruman doesn't have magic anymore.
Right, he just talks to people. Yeah,
and then as soon as like they do, like they lose 19 people. That's it. Like, I can't buy it. It's too tidy. And again, and I remember I kind of misread the passage where they talk about the battle and how like there's like a roll of like everyone who participated in the battle, and they say like at the very top were the names Meriadoc and Pippin, and I was like, wait, did one of them die in the battle? And I was like, I almost did like a spit take, because I was like, whoa, if he did that, like if he killed one of them
in like a roll call,
well, not even in a roll call, but like, oh, one of them, I thought I'd missed it, like I'd kind of skimmed over like that page and had like missed like one of them getting shot and dying or something, and it'd be like, oh, it would have been crazy if he had like, they all make it through this and then one of them dies like retaking the Shire. That would have like felt like properly tragic, like properly like it would actually feel like this is not just like a cartoon. This would feel like it's a real thing with stakes that matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that. It feels like, again, because the stakes don't feel real. This whole scene just felt totally unnecessary to me. I will say it is cool when Wormtongue like slits Saruman's throat and he like melts and then like turns into like a ghost and then gets blown away by the wind.
Well, and the ghost looks west too.
A horrifying skull.
Yeah.
That was cool. I like that part.
I like that part. I like the part where Lobelia Sackville Baggins was one of the first people to be a political prisoner because she was so curmudgeonly and she tried to beat up these guys with her umbrella. And then they let her out and everyone applauds for her and she doesn't know what to do with that because
she's never been popular before.
She's never been popular before.
And then she becomes so nice, right? Don't they say that? Yeah.
Like then she dies a year later.
There's something typically Tolkien-esque about that, but she is like the one character that Tolkien obviously has moral qualms with, who nevertheless gets like a good ending.
Yeah.
Because as you pointed out, right, like Boromir has to die because he's kind of not a good, like not a totally good person. He's not morally pure, you know? Mm-hmm. And so anytime there's any character who's not 100% morally pure, who ends up okay, in this story, that kind of draws my attention. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but that's something I talked about a little bit in our first episode on the Snape, because there's no good and evil in the Shire. There's no evil in the Shire. Yeah. Everything is, even people who are like shitty in the Shire are just shitty in like a totally mundane,
I think we said like, bougie way, right?
Yeah, like petty way. Like Libella is like antagonistic, but she's not evil. Like she would never like be tempted to like join up with Sauron. You know, she just feels like her family got like skint out of like this nice house and she wants it like from Bilbo, who in her opinion has lived an impolitely long time.
Okay, so all right, I hear all your criticisms, but I want to give this quote. So we didn't go over this, but Saruman at one point tries to stab Frodo, which I was trying to imagine what that would look like choreography wise, but I don't know what it would look like. Frodo's wearing his mail shirt, it doesn't work, and Sam's like, "We're gonna kill Saruman for doing this," and Frodo says, "No, Sam, do not kill him even now, for he has not hurt me. And in any case, I do not wish him to be slain in this evil mood. He was great once, of a noble kind that we should not dare to raise our hands against. He has fallen, and his cure is beyond us, but I would still spare him." There was a strange look in his eyes of mingled wonder and respect and hatred. This is Saruman. "You have grown, halfling," he said. "Yes, you have grown very much. You are wise and cruel. You have robbed me my revenge of sweetness, and now I must go hence in bitterness, in debt to your mercy. I hate it and you. Well, I will go, and I will trouble you no more. But do not expect me to wish you health and long life. You will have neither. But that is not my doing. I merely foretell." And I feel like that's like, again, as close as Tolkien can get to, someone has changed as this result. Frodo has understood the meaning of mercy. He has applied it in the appropriate situation, and he has achieved total victory. And then, but then it's like Saruman's like, "But you know, you're not gonna. Something's gonna happen. You're gonna have to go to heaven or something." Like, and I don't know. I find like again the attempt to like make the hobbits learn something, even though we know there's no stakes, even though we know it's gonna work, kind of interesting. And like Pippin and Merry have like battle strategy, even though we've seen them get like knocked out and fall down and stuff. It's like there's no like history where they're like applying battle strategy. So I don't know, like the moment to me that started with the Shadow of the Past is complete in that scene, and it is again unfortunately total victory. But I can see him like attempting to like line up all the threads there in terms of mercy and like compassion, and then it's sort of complete. So I don't know. That's like I like it. It works, but I also I hear hear your point that none of it really matters ultimately. So, but
I mean, I think that there's something really strange that happens, and I feel like it's kind of a point where like Tolkien's kind of like core metaphor, it just gets a little wibbly there at the end. Where like I remember there's the line when Gandalf is like, yeah, basically dropping them off in the Shire before he drives his van out to Tom Bombadil's house. His van that has a picture of him casting magic airbrushed
on the side.
After he's unloaded them all from his minivan, he says like, "You're grown now," and I was like, "Wait, they're all like 75 years old." When were these people not grown?
Yeah.
Like they were not children when they left. And now they grew up. And I mean, I think that when he's doing like a thing where it's like, oh, like they were metaphorically children when they left, and now they've they're adults because they've seen the horrors of war, and it feels very of a piece with, again, kind of this idea of like, oh, him leaving his innocence in England to go fight in the war and then coming home and finding that experience to be challenging to deal with. So I don't want to like say like it's a bad metaphor. It's just worded really weirdly because they're all adults the whole time. Like not like old people, but like they're all like in their majority. Like they weren't growing up. They've all been like adults the whole time.
Yeah, it's like they're not children, but they've seen things. Yeah. Nate, what do you think about the scouring bit, or at least like, what do you think like the idea of like Lord of the Rings being about like growing up, or I guess maybe about like mercy and compassion as well, like learning what those are, I guess.
Well, I think that the scouring, like definitely trying to do an industrialism versus pastoralism dystopia in a single chapter was probably biting off a little more than Tolkien could chew, as I think we've agreed. And I think he had a lot of ideas like this, on the one hand, I really have considerable disdain for, as almost everyone does, for Jackson's, Hobbit movies. And the third one was particularly egregious, as I think most people agree. But at the same time, like, I think that is an acknowledgement, even though it's a bad movie, that Tolkien has written single chapters that we could really take 3.5 hours to unpack in film if we wanted to. And this is something that I think maybe part of what I like about the Silmarillion is that he's super consistent in that regard in that book, where like every chapter is something that we could have done for 100 pages and we did it in 15 instead, because that's the book I'm writing right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I think what we're uncovering here, which I think is true, is that in the Lord of the Rings, there's more inconsistency there. There are chapters that make sense as chapters. And then there's the Scouring of the Shire that feels like this tacked on thing, because really it could have been another 150 page, separate novella that would have probably been more interesting.
Well, to your point, Nate, I just wanted to get the Gandalf quote. He says, "I'm with you at present," said Gandalf, "but soon I shall not be. I'm not coming to the Shire. You must settle its affairs yourselves. That is what you've been trained for. Do you not understand? My time is over. It is no longer my task to set things to rights, nor to help folk to do so. And as for you, my dear friends, you will need no help. You are grown up now, grown indeed very high among the great you are, and I have no longer any fear at all for any of you. But if you would know, I am turning aside soon. I'm going to have a long talk with Bombadil, such a talk as I have not had in all my time. He is a moss gatherer, and I have been a stone doomed to rolling. But my rolling days are ending, and now we shall have much to say to one another."
Papa so he's a Rolling Stone.
He's listening. He queued up the Rolling Stones tape. He kicked him out of the van, and he's like, "I'm going to take a break." But like, I think like the sentiment there, like they could have given it its own novella. We could have had, like a whole section of like what that means to be trained now. I don't know. Like that's an interesting phraseology that Gandalf uses, is he's kind of like, as John, you were saying, just kicking them out of the van, and we could have given like more time to that. But
What does Gandalf have to talk to Tom Bombadil about?
They're gonna rap, John. They're gonna.
Imagine, like, Tom Bombadil can like barely focus on like what is directly in front of his face unless it's his wife's amazing tits.
Yeah, Tom Bombadil, ADD king. Yeah, so.
Like I can't imagine Gandalf really wants to like go and just hear about like, oh man, you know, I was out picking wildflowers for Goldberry today, as I do every day.
Also, like, would Tom Bombadil remember the First Age? Like, yeah, like I don't know. Maybe they're gonna talk about Fëanor and stuff in the Silmarillion. I don't know. Like,
yeah, but Tom Bombadil's gonna be like, oh yeah, I don't know. I was out picking wildflowers for my wife that day. Have you ever heard of her, Goldberry, the Riverwoman's daughter?
She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Yeah.
Anyway, check out my boots.
Yeah. I can imagine that, like,
my boots are yellow.
Like Gandalf's like, I've been walking. He's like, I've been walking too much. I'm gonna rest at Tom Bombadil's house, and he's just chasing Tom Bombadil around as Bombadil is doing his like 100th flower pick of the day at like top speed. Like, so like,
shut up about your goddamn boots. I can't take it anymore. Oh man.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wish we, instead of the Scouring of the Shire, we gotten 100 pages on Gandalf and Tom Bombadil just doing whatever. Because as I said in the first episode, when Tom Bombadil's not on screen, I'm like, where's Tom Bombadil?
Everyone should be asking, where's Tom Bombadil? Can we give the ring to him?
That's what I'm kind of already said though, is like there's this part of me that goes, when Gandalf says this is what you were been trained for, I'm like, that, like, it's not like they're doing a bad thing for sure. Like,
yeah, they have been trained to be like revolutionary.
Yeah. Like at what point were they trained to do that? Like, I just don't understand what they did over the course of the rest of the story that trained them to do that. I think they were trained to, as Frodo points out, I think they were trained to think a lot about the values of mercy and compassion. I think there was a lot of training in comradeliness and in mutual care and in taking solace in the people who are around you and learning to love them and support them. But I just don't see the part in the story where they get trained. Yeah. As you all, as you pointed out, right? Like they don't actually, in both of the battles they're in, they both just suck. Like they don't actually like, and Mary, in Mary's offense, he stabs the one very important person to stab and then is grievously injured as a consequence in magic mechanics that I don't totally understand. But like, I don't know. I don't see how they've been trained for this. I think they've been trained for better things. And I think that's why the Grey Havens is such a better chapter than the Scouring of the Shire is because the Grey Havens is actually what they've been trained to do.
Okay.
Well, I think that,
you go ahead, John, but I want to talk about something in the Grey Havens chapter. You go ahead.
I think it kind of comes back to what you were talking about earlier, Nate, with Aragorn and kind of Tolkien's kind of naive belief that, oh, if good people are just like among the great, as long as you're great, you're good and great, you can do whatever. Like everything will just sort itself out because like there is a virtuous people, patriots are in control. And I think that is kind of the message there. It's like, oh, they've grown in virtue. And so like kind of the mundane concerns of just like running a whole country, like that's easy.
Yeah, that'll just happen.
They just show up, and because they're so self-evidently good and great, like they spark a complete overthrow of the existing power structure in like less than a day.
Yeah.
And, I found myself thinking, kind of to piggyback on what we were saying about, there being room in this for like a much bigger section. I found myself thinking about, and I talked a little bit about this in the Two Towers episode too. I found myself thinking like how weird the structure again is of like we have book 5 that is all the battle stuff, and then book 6, which is all the like Mordor stuff, plus then, you know, all the ending. And I found myself thinking, and not to keep going back to him, but George R. R. Martin, the way that, again, you don't get tired of particular viewpoint characters in that book, or particularly plot lines in the same way, because he's constantly switching between perspectives and going in like a chronological order, but like, you know, like, oh, these 2 chapters are happening like roughly concurrently to each other. If like time passes in one chapter, the next chapter will happen, you know, after that passage in time. Whereas Tolkien, you're kind of flipping between like these 2 narratives from the 2 Towers on in this way that kind of deflates the stakes more, because we already know by the time that we go to Mount Doom, or like it's funny because, you know, we have kind of a slight cliffhanger in book 5 where they go to meet the mouth of Sauron.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, if you surrender, if you do appeasement for us, like we'll give you Frodo back. You know, and so there's like a little bit of tension there, but then we immediately cut to book 6, and like Sam saves Frodo like within that first chapter, and then, you know, we know they're gonna get the ring in Mount Doom.
Right.
And I found myself thinking, like, again, maybe because I do write fiction, and in particular, like I've tried writing like epic fantasy of kind of a Tolkienian vein before, but I found myself thinking about like, oh, what would make more sense is if like after the 2 Towers, like they like Merry and Pippin like realize like, oh, Saruman has all this pipeweed from the Shire. What's going on with that?
Right.
And they leave the rest of the party and go do a side quest where they go back to the Shire and they deal with all that stuff on their own. And somehow it all ties together back at the end, where like that becomes crucial in some way too. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I was like, oh, I would much rather this be kind of its own side plot, kind of running in parallel to the others, rather than kind of just crammed in here at the very end.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it would give Merry and Pippin like their own story where they get to be the heroes, because that's kind of what this scene with Scouring of the Shire is. It's this kind of coda for Merry and Pippin where they really get to be the heroes, and get to be the leaders, in a way that they don't through the rest of the book. It kind of is giving them their little last hurrah, since they didn't get to be the people who threw the ring in the mountain.
Right.
Well, I feel like they toy with that possibility though, because it's either at Rivendell, I think, where this possibility is suggested that they're going to send Merry and Pippin back to do something like that, and then they don't. For whatever, I guess because we need 7 writers or whatever. Like, and so like, I wonder if that was Tolkien voicing aloud the possibility that he could have done that. Like, it's like, oh, well, I got all these people here. Like, what if we sent Merry and Pippin back to check on the Shire? And then they're just like, well, no, we need all 7 people in the party. So that possibility exists in there somewhere. But
I mean, again, it's this weird thing where like the Scouring of the Shire, for as much as I'm like, I think it kind of is a little bit of like a waste, he does set it up. Like there is the bit where they find the pipeweed at Isengard, and they're like, what's going on with this? Why does he have all this pipeweed? Yeah. We don't even send this outside of the Shire. We keep it all for ourselves because we love getting high so much. You know, and so again, there is kind of this thing, like he draws attention to it. And so it's something where it's like, that's setup. It's, you know, this doesn't totally come out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't execute right because he hasn't quite figured out like that kind of plotting yet, which, I mean, again, I can't totally fault him for, like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's
just a hard balance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, like I said, he's doing something new, which is always hard. But I don't know. I think that I'm glad that as we've talked with people and you and I have talked, Ben, you know, I like I said, I like these books a lot. I definitely think they're worth reading. But I do sometimes find how unimpeachable some people hold them to be kind of grating, because they're like, I mean, in a lot of ways, they are the first draft of an entire genre.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And unfortunately, like a genre that has, in many cases, not transcended the flaws found here, which is a whole other soapbox I can get onto. We don't need to get into that at the moment.
Well, that kind of touched with what you were saying in the beginning, Nate, where you were like talking about how like revisiting them, you were like, there's a lot more here that gives me pause than I remembered. Like, you know, something you said in the beginning of the conversation where you're just like, I don't quite remember some of this stuff being this, you know, I think you were saying, John, the flaws this apparent perhaps. So, yeah.
The very explicit, like, just the West with a capital W gets thrown around a lot, like a lot. Like even I remembered it being a problem, but I didn't remember it being that much of a like obvious. Like, and then all those Eastern guys just bowed down and accepted their servitude to the man of the West. And Jesus,
I
dude,
think the line that kind of had my jaw like hanging out when he's like, there were men who looked like half trolls with black skin and red tongues.
I know. It was just like, come on. Which, you know, I think that is a really. That is a really good way that you put it, John. That's like insofar as this is a first draft of a genre, that also kind of remains true across a lot of the other stuff that was going to follow, in ways that, you know, obviously people have been subverting for a long time, but that even today we're still like. In my opinion, a lot of what N.K. Jemisin is doing is like what I've finally been waiting to see happen with this kind of like epic fantasy, like really undermining all of these tropes and turning them on their head and using them for one's own ends. But yeah, I think that it's there were definitely plenty of moments in here for me to be like, boy, oh boy, this is not particularly, not a lot of subtlety to this. But again, I don't know that I don't know that in 2025 it's breaking that much ground to point that out. But it was a part of my experience of reading the book.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, you know, again, we brought up Conan earlier. At the very least, Tolkien does not like luxuriate in it the way that maybe like a Robert E. Howard would. Like, it's not great, but it's also like, it's like 6 paragraphs in the whole saga that like come across as like flagrantly racist rather than like the entire book.
Well, and I found another quote that now the source I don't have, but Tolkien is just like, yeah, I'm a Gondor guy. I speak the language of the West. Like he was clearly just like kind of, I think, saying like, this is my viewpoint and what I think about the world in a blinkered way. I don't know if he was saying it was blinkered, but he was like owning it in that way. So I don't know. It's interesting how much of the racial stuff, like stereotypes, gets baked into a fantasy world. You know, we talked about this earlier, but like on the other episodes, but just like almost with like attempting to write another world, you end up reproducing the one. I'm sure there's probably something there in terms of like social reproduction, but I don't know. Yeah.
And it gets baked into. Oh, sorry. No,
go ahead, Nate. You're the guest.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to follow this path too far down because I think it takes us a little far afield. But it is worth noting how much of this gets baked into Dungeons and Dragons, which then later on gets baked into RPGs, video game RPGs, where the whole idea of one's race being the thing that identifies one's characteristics and one's abilities. Yeah. And that being a game mechanic that, you know, people are more and more sort of shifting to thinking more about backgrounds than about this kind of thing. But that's still a very real element of very real stuff that you could buy that Wizards of the Coast has written for you to do, that you could sit in the living room with your friends right now and say, well, because I am of this race in this world, I am good at this and bad at this.
Yeah.
And like, that's still something that's very much baked into, you know, a lot of the worlds that we play in today, which is something that I think is one of Tolkien's worst things that he bequeathed to us, to nerddom later on.
Even then, you know, I'll defend him a little bit, because I think that actually something that I think you can miss if you are taking kind of the D&D perspective is that Tolkien actually, like, at least this is my reading, like, we get at least 3 different cultures of elves. Maybe they're not like gone into in super, super high detail, but like, we know the high elves of Rivendell are different from the elves of Lindon, are different from the elves of Lothlorien. They live in different countries. They have, you know, different modes of dress
and languages. Again, he
doesn't dwell on those things super, super deeply necessarily, because that's not what the story is about. But I think that, like, if you, again, like you said, Nate, if you read D&D, you kind of get the impression that, like, every elf, or like maybe not every elf, but it's like every high elf is basically interchangeable. They've all had basically the exact same life experiences. They have these exact, every single one is going to have these exact racial like traits. Whereas I feel like I didn't get the impression as I was reading this, like every elf is a great archer just because Legolas is a good archer. And again, I feel like it's something that doesn't maybe get explored enough, considering the fact that it's like, okay, well, dude, you put elves and dwarves in this book. Why don't we get to like learn a little more about what their whole deal is? Why do you just keep telling us so much about the fucking horse Vikings? I'd love to know what's going on with the dwarves, please.
Well, that's all in the appendix. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'd like it to be in the story, please.
That's why I was like enjoying reading the Dwarven appendix, because it is all like tragic battles and like lineage and doomed, like, you know, power structures. But yeah, it's just shunted to the appendix because I guess like Gimli can't really talk about it for various reasons. I don't know, but.
Well, I think part of it, I find myself again thinking back to the Ents, and there's kind of this thing where I think the reason we all like the Ents so much is because they're so weird that he is forced to slow down and be like, here's how these guys work. Right. In a way that like he doesn't with the elves and the dwarves, because he's kind of assuming like, oh, you know what an elf and a dwarf kind of are, because you know, he's assuming his audience is at least like passingly familiar with kind of these earlier traditions he's drawing on in a way that they're not going to be with the Ents.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, Nate, you know, I completely 100% agree with you, but I actually think that it's something where it's like Tolkien, not great on this. The real villain, as in many things in the world, is actually Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons.
I will definitely go on record and say that I think J.R.R. Tolkien is smarter than Gary Gygax. I think that is a claim I am not ashamed to make on the internet. But yeah, I think that it still does remain the case, though, that Granddaddy Tolkien has bequeathed us a lot of stuff, and there are things that there has been a lot of damage that has been done as a consequence, that has rippled. I think it's worth noting, not because it's not obvious, because I think it's probably obvious to most listeners, but it's worth noting because of the broad spectrum of like geek and nerd and genre fiction culture in which these tropes ended up being able to embed themselves and sort of bear their terrible fruit. And so
100%.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from there. But on the other hand, I think one thing that I was thinking about earlier is that when we're thinking about virtue and we're thinking about morality in these books, and this is what's the complicated thing, I think, for me, is I think some of these virtues that he's celebrating are really good. I think that when the book, when Frodo's, as Ben was sort of pointing us to, when Frodo's biggest character growth is not that he's like a perseverant hero who can accomplish anything, but that he's learned to be compassionate. Like that's I'm on board. You know, I'm on board with that. I think that like when the love of your friends is more important, the love of your companions and the people around you is more important than their physical like power or ability, which I think metaphorically in our world would maybe probably translate into financial or economic security, right? Like I think that these are beautiful. There are beautiful things in this story. But I think that it is a mistake to focus solely on one or the other type of seed that this story planted.
Yeah, it's like both. Yeah. Well, and I think that's the staying power too. It's like it's not just the bad seeds, but the good seeds as well. So, and I guess. Well, I guess I already said it, but I also just like seeing, I feel like there's a version of this where it's just on Frodo the whole time. And I guess it kind of is, but it's like Frodo hears about Smeagol. He's like, why doesn't he kill that guy? And then Gandalf's like, well, pity stayed his hand. And then he learns to do it by actually working with Smeagol. Unfortunately, Smeagol dies, but then he's like given one more chance to demonstrate that he learned something, which he applies to Saruman. So would have been an interesting book if Smeagol didn't die. Like somehow they got rid of the ring and Smeagol was still there. But I don't know. I think that's one of the good seeds, like you were saying. So, I mean,
Ben, I agree with you, but I think that, you know, maybe this is a good time for us finally to talk about, I mean, I think we've been talking around it, but talking about like eucatastrophe as a storytelling device.
Yeah, so you know about eucatastrophe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to explain it again. Just as a quick rundown, Tolkien's theory of plot: unexpected good things happen to characters. It also has a huge religious application with Christianity. But anyway, yeah, John, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so I mean, there is no version of this book where Smeagol can live, because the whole point of Smeagol being there is that, essentially God put him there to do that.
To make the good thing, the eucatastrophe, yeah.
Yeah. Everything has to happen exactly as it happens because essentially God says so. I mean, I don't know. That's a little glib because like the hand of the divine is a little more subtle in this work. It's not quite exactly that like it's happening like I said, but
one of the Valinor is like, we need Smeagol there. It feels
like that's kind of the lesson we're supposed to take away at the end of it. Is like the way things go is good because it's the way that things have to go because the big guy's in charge.
Well, as Gandalf says, I think that Smeagol has some role to play. I think he says in chapter 1 or something like that. Which would be funny if one of the Valinor was just like, don't kill Smeagol. And Gandalf's like, oh, okay.
Are you sure? He's really annoying and gross.
Yeah. I mean, I also am, again, as I talked about in the Two Towers episode, I'm fascinated of the idea of like, again, deserving a eucatastrophe isn't quite the way you do it, but it's just like, now that we've given this unexpectedly good thing, what do we do? And I think like on one hand, it's like, well, it was preordained. We don't have to do anything. But I think he also toys around with, characters rising to the occasion in, ways I find fascinating. And Smeagol, I guess, rises to the occasion in an unexpected way. But yeah.
There is a lot of, and it's interesting because like Tolkien in his day wasn't known for being a particularly voracious Calvinist in his theological leanings, but there is something very much of the doctrine of the fortunate fall, I think, at play there. That's like, oh, well, it's a good thing that, we got kicked out of the garden because then we get to have Jesus Christ, right? Then like we wouldn't have gotten to have such a remarkable Messiah if we hadn't suffered such a horrible fall. And I think that Smeagol is sort of playing a kind of Judas Iscariot role here. That's like this scapegoat, which is the scapegoat itself is a doctrine that goes all the way back into the first few books of the Hebrew scriptures, like this idea of you have a literal goat that, you know, takes some, I'm not going to oversimplify it.
Miasma,
but like that like Smeagol is holding this position that has been held throughout various different elements of the biblical narrative. That's like, well, you need to have a nasty little guy who will do the bad thing so that the good thing can come about. Yeah. It's not enough to just have one big enemy. It's not enough to just have Lucifer. You also have to have Judas and the other nasty little guys, you know, otherwise, if God's just foiling Lucifer all the time, that's not interesting. That's just Job, right? Like we can't do Job over and over and over again forever. Like if it's always just like, oh, Satan's so stupid and he's fallen and his pants fell down and his butt fell out, like that's not as compelling as having kind of a human element, which I think is sort of Smeagol's function.
Yeah, everybody forgot the part story of Job where Satan trips and his dick and balls fall out of his pants, and both God and Job pointed and go, ha ha ha. That's the point.
It's an important chapter. Underappreciated, underconsidered in theological.
Also, I love that even Satan is like, I'm agreeing to do this bit. I'm just gonna lose. I'm gonna trip, and my dick and balls are gonna fall out. Like, why did I ever agree to do this thing with God over this one guy? So.
Well, you know, again, you guys didn't read all the appendices, I guess, because there's also a scene where that's why Sauron died at the battle at the very beginning, is he tripped and his dick and balls fell out, and so that's why they were able to kill him and take the ring, because he was so embarrassed.
Yeah, because he was so embarrassed.
He put his hands over his penis. So
and then Isildur
no one would see, and then Isildur was able to cut his finger off.
Just his finger somehow.
I like the idea of the like Sauron from the movies just standing with his hands over his crotch.
Peter Jackson interpreted this scene a little differently.
Well, I mean, what they don't tell you is that because he's evil, in the original version, the ring is it's cock ring.
Exactly.
So when his dick and balls fall out,
Isildur's ready. Isildur's right
well,
there.
I mean, think about it. If you're Sauron, you're the king of all evil in Middle Earth. Like, what's a safer place for you to keep your magic ring that's key to all your power? Just like sitting out on your hand where like any like Tom, Dick, or Harry could just pull it off, or on your penis, which is concealed beneath your giant metal codpiece.
Yeah, that's the other part that Peter Jackson really changed, is the colossal metal codpiece that Sauron's supposed to be wearing all the time. It's like the size of a bicycle helmet, and it's crazy that you never see him with it on.
Yeah, see, many people don't know that. They think sex is not in Tolkien's works. Well, actually, there's a giant cock ring in the appendix.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What do you think Tolkien, what would Tolkien do if someone described to him what a cock ring is and is for? How do you think JRR Tolkien would react to this? I think it would be so far beyond the bounds. Like, it would be like Gandalf explaining to Butterbur what they were doing in Mordor.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Nate. I mean, he spent a lot of his life around people who were educated in British public schools.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. I don't know the history of cock rings, and I'm not going to go on the podcast and pretend like I do.
I just want to point out that we were going to talk about Eucatastrophe, and then we just somehow detoured into this dick and balls riff, which I guess goes to show what happens if we try to talk religion for too long. But Nate, to bring it back, I did like your point about the fortunate fall, because I think that's also related. And I think on fairy stories, when Tolkien talks about eucatastrophe, it appears that he's getting it from fairy stories, and the idea that the unexpected good thing could be quite fortifying to us who are not in fairy world. But I think it could also lead to everything was preordained, and I don't have to worry. So, but
again, it's something where I don't hate the idea in and of itself. Like, I think that, like you said, but I can see that being this thing where it's like, it can be. It's important to remember that, sometimes good things do happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes things do go right. Sometimes the good guys do win. But it's because there is, again, no tragic element. There is no sense in which these characters really feel like they have flaws that they're like overcoming in some way, or that the good thing is happening in spite of their imperfection. That's what feels like it's missing to me.
And you don't see this in Smeagol.
Yeah. I mean, Smeagol's annoying.
Yeah.
I don't like, again, I'm on the record. I hate Smeagol.
Yeah,
I wish they killed that little fucker. I wish Bilbo had finished him off in the cave.
Well, because I remember we talked about this in the previous episode, because I feel like what you were describing, I think maybe Tolkien intended for Smeagol Golem, but also he is just a nasty, annoying guy. So,
well, and again, I get that, but it's like, okay, again, Tolkien is Catholic. Like, within like the valence of like Catholicism, which is informing this whole book, like no one can actually be like a perfect paragon of virtue. Like, Aragorn has to, like, even if he's more virtuous like than most people, even if he's somehow saintly, like, he should still have some kind of struggle, something that he, even if it's just doubt in himself and his ability to bear the burden of kingship, even if it's that he, would much rather just be shacked up with Arwen and he doesn't really want to do all this stuff. There has to be something. Like, it can't just be like, Smeagol cannot be the stand-in for like every like thing flawed about humanity.
Yeah, I agree with that, John.
Unless this is, again, I think that he can, but if that is the case, then guess what? Tolkien cannot give shit to his friend, the tremendous hack C.S. Lewis, for writing allegories.
Well, also, this reminded me, just as a side note, the name I couldn't remember, Aragorn's name was Thorongil, and it's one of his 9 names. This was listed upon the Lord of the Rings fandom. So the real struggle, John, is for Aragorn to remember which name he's using in any current situation.
As there are 9 black riders, there shall be 9 names.
but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's like he can't just be the one person unless he's supposed to be, at which point it's then like an allegory. So
yeah, I mean, okay, so kind of the whole bit, like, there is a moment again where like I think we get close to that.
Yeah.
Just for a second. And it's when Sam is tempted by the ring.
Yeah.
I think we haven't talked a lot about like Sam and Frodo on Mount Doom.
Oh, we haven't. Yeah.
I think is the stronger of the two sections, even if it ends up feeling very, very rushed, I think. At least from like a character writing perspective. Sam like gets the ring and he thinks about like everything he could do with the ring, and again, as always, the mechanics left vague in a way that is very evocative and that I like. But then it's like, oh, but his plain hobbit sense was still, undiminished within him, and he knew that was far beyond his station and what he, could ever want. And it's like, he couldn't have even like had to deal with that for like half a chapter. No, his plain hobbit sense, just tells him like, sorry, man, you're a fucking dirt farmer. You're not allowed to want anything else.
Yeah, you can't turn Mordor into a beautiful garden. So,
and again, I don't even hate that. Yeah, Sam does overcome it, but I wish that something else had inspired him to overcome it. I wish that it had been like he realized that like if to take the ring, he would have to kill Frodo, and he could never do that.
That would be good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like this thing where it's like, oh, I was born a farmer, and you know that's my caste, and I just have to like know my place.
Exactly.
You know, I don't like that. And again, it doesn't feel really tempting because again, Tolkien falls back on this idea of like, oh, the hobbits are just too simple to ever want anything of any complexity.
Right. Yeah. Other than drinking and smoking. Yeah.
And the people who do have the ability or potential to want things of any complexity in general, other than Boromir, who's not in this book, maybe Denethor. Other than Denethor, don't really generally want them in any kind of complex way, which is what I think you were pointing out, John. It's like, because that really struck me. Like, Aragorn should have had moments of doubt.
Yeah.
Aragorn doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything about being in charge of countries. Like, I don't care how long he's been alive.
Living in the woods.
He's been in the forest.
Sleeping in the dirt.
The most people that Aragorn has been in charge of at once before this story starts is like 25. Like, there's no way on earth that he wouldn't at some point, some part of him wouldn't say, I wonder if like I'm really the best. I'm obviously the intended guy for the job. Am I the best guy for the job is not something that ever occurs to him when Faramir literally has the experience of running a major seat of government. Like he's been doing this
literal seat of government.
But I do think if you want some moral complexity, it is worth at least pausing for a moment at the grave of Denethor, where like even though his decisions are quickly swept under the rug by like he was tainted by Sauron, he was looking in the Palantir,
he looked in the orb,
he was like being crazy and weird. Like even though these things are relatively quickly dealt with, I still think the idea of like this figure who is used to only being a steward in name and only thinking of himself as a steward in name, and then having to face the possibility that the fulfillment of his task will also be the end of everything that he sees as being meaningful and worthwhile about himself. Like that is an interesting character. Again, I'm not totally sure that he ends up in the most interesting possible place, but I don't think we can totally shit on Tolkien's ability to write complexity into the characters as long as people like Denethor and Boromir and maybe Gollum, even if we hate him, are
and like if anything, Denethor is meant to be this sort of like I've given in to despair completely, which I think one of the themes of the third book was like don't do that. So
I did see that a lot. I did see that a lot.
I totally agree with you there, Nate. That's a really good point. And again, I think that it's one of those things where again I find myself thinking about what could like a slightly differently edited version of this book look like, because Denethor doing that whole speech is the perfect moment for Aragorn to be like, oh, fuck.
Right.
Yeah, I might have this sword, but this guy actually has done this and really cares about it. And I kind of maybe don't.
Then the problem is that gets undercut by like Aragorn being Númenorian, which means he can look in the evil orb better than Denethor can. Yeah. And that's like the one time he's worried in this book. He's like, oh man, I looked in the evil orb. I hope I didn't fuck up. Yeah.
We only find out about it after the fact. Right. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Like he could have been like Aragorn was worried. He's like, if I look in the orb, something bad's going to happen. Yeah. So,
but Nate, I will give you one point in terms of complex characters.
A hit, a palpable hit.
They want. Yeah. I was gonna. You said the characters who get the chance to have the ring don't like want the things they want in a complex way. There's one notable exception.
Yeah,
and that is our queen, beautiful and terrible as the dawn.
Yeah.
Galadriel.
John's managed to say that in every single episode we've done. Is to say beautiful and as terrible as the dawn, Queen Galadriel. Yeah. All shall love me in despair. Yeah,
we stand.
Yeah, we simply must stand. Also, it's very. If you read the Arrowin stuff, like so she stays and she's half elf and half man, so that means she's gonna outlive Aragorn. But then she still is going to die. But for a while, she's just hanging out in Lothlorien after Galadriel has left, if you read the appendix, which I can't imagine what the scene would be like there, where you're just like, yeah, Galadriel's gone. This is coming back into a normal forest. And also my husband is dead.
Wow.
So,
yeah. No, to be honest with you, I don't think that I'm sure this is out there. I'm sure someone has done it and I just haven't encountered their work. I don't think that anybody that I have read has really reckoned with what it means to write characters who are 500 years old. Mm-hmm. Like, I just like there are little hints at like, oh yes, like this didn't feel like it took a long time to me because I'm very old. Like, but like the level of absolutely not able to handle it anymore any sentient being would be after several centuries of existence is like, I think something that just doesn't get taken into account. And even there, it's supposed to be like, oh, well, Arwen's, very sad because this thing that she knew was going to happen, though, was the sacrifice she made so that she could be with her beloved, took place. But like that doesn't account for what it would mean to be 500 something years old. Yeah. I mean, that's so long to exist.
We did a joke about that on the first episode where we were like it's funny that Bilbo he's like, I'm going to sing a song about Elrond's dad. It's just like, right. Elrond's like 500 years old. It's like, like, what do you know? Like, yeah, like, I don't know.
I mean, I do like, there is something, where they show, I found myself thinking like when they show up in Lothlorien, and like they basically like get to like the throne room where like Galadriel and what's his face, the Galadriel's bitch, or
Celeborn,
yeah. And it's like,
still got it.
What do they do all day? Yeah, like I can't really imagine like Lothlorien is like a polity that requires a lot of like hands-on,
right,
like governmental day-to-day tasks. Like exactly. I can't imagine Galadriel's like having to figure out like like the plumbing for like the new treehouse, I guess.
Yeah, we're building a viaduct. Yeah, exactly.
We need to make more elf rope, John. They just make elf rope all day and they sing songs. That we're told they love songs more than food. Yeah, so.
It's like I take your point, but imagine is also this is a world without like TV, or even like mass-produced books.
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that would be an interesting.
Apparently, they keep singing the same songs over and over again. Like they're still singing songs about stuff that happened like 2,000 years ago that presumably a lot of people there still remember and were there for.
Exactly. To them, it's like, hey, remember 3 Christmases ago when you got me that shitty sweater? I wrote a song about that. We're going to sing it now and 10 years from now and 20 years from now and 30 years from now. The same
and then we're going to go to the Undying Lands, and guess what? We're going to keep on singing it.
Guess what's there? Guess what we're going to spend our time on there?
Yeah, this is a version of the Martin thing about Aragorn's tax policy, where it's just like, what do elves do for fun?
Elves do. And I will say that's another thing that generally just like is a serious problem for me in fantasy worlds, which I'm just going to briefly state as a bugbear that needs to get out of my brain, and then we can move on to much more important things. Worlds that have existed for thousands of years and have not developed any significant technological innovations. Like Like if your world has existed for 5,000 years and you never figured out that there was something to do with lightning and magnets, like there was some relationship between lightning and magnets that could be used in a useful way, like that just like that really frustrates me when people do that. It's the same thing when they have spaceships. They never explain why gravity it happens. Like it's just.
I mean, I will take not umbrage, but I actually think Tolkien, I don't want to say he's unimpeachable on this, but something I found myself thinking about, and I think I referenced this in our Fellowship episode, is Lord of the Rings as a post-apocalyptic fiction. Yeah. You know, I think that I can very much believe that like the Numenorians knew about magnets.
I got you. I take that point.
They asked the question, magnets, how do they work?
Yeah. And then the black Numenorians are dressing like juggalos. Also, I gotta say my favorite like subcategory was like the goth Numenorians, which Tolkien says the black Numenorians, and they're like wearing like black and they do like magic tricks and stuff. Like
I want to make another Insane Clown Posse reference, but I don't actually know anything about any of their songs or music, so I can't say.
They're drinking Faygo, I can tell you that. They're drinking Faygo.
It's just funny that the narrator says like, "Oh, these are the fucked up Numenorians. You didn't think they were all good, right?" Like, so again, there's a version
Numenorians were bad. This is just a preview of like the dark fucked up stuff I'm thinking about in my mind.
Then you go to the appendix and you're like, oh, there was like a death cult. Yeah, and I'm sure Amazon's gonna adapt that and Rings of Power season 2 or whatever.
Those are the ones who invented cock rings.
But you know, and again, I think about like I think it's Gimli who's like talking about how like the dwarves can't do things the way they used to. Like they've lost knowledge. And you know, it's something where I've even talked about this in previous episodes, Nate. You know, there's always a part of you when like they say that where I'm like, well, why don't you just like try some stuff till you figure it out again?
Like, do it.
You know it's possible. It's like has the like. And, you know, maybe there's something in terms of like the metaphysical structure of reality has changed. And these things are impossible because like the age is turning. You know, we never figure out what happens to the dwarves, but they all disappear for some reason because this is our prehistory. All this stuff really happens.
Yes. Every last word. Just like that.
But I think that solves a little bit of that.
I agree. It does. No, it does. That's a point well made. Yeah.
You know, and even, you know, the stuff we were kind of joking about with the elves earlier, like I feel like I don't think Tolkien is totally eliding that because the whole thing with the elves is like, they are like, oh, we're not really like meant to be here. Like we're not meant to live with all these mortals. It's like really hard on us. Like to like we're supposed to be in the West. We're supposed to be living in Valinor. We might have fucked up by even coming here to begin with. And we're like staying here mostly out of like stubbornness because we don't want to admit that we were wrong to come here in the first place.
Right.
I mean, that's literally like why Galadriel is still there, is because she is too stubborn. She feels like she's been slighted and being like accused of taking part in the kinslaying. And so she's like, I'm not going back. Until she does decide to go back. But that's, you know, big moment.
Right. Thousands of years. Or whatever.
You know, so like the elves do like they do get incredibly tired of like existing, and they're again, that's kind of why they're, you know, there's the whole thing, you know, about like the gift of mortality that the men have that the elves are so jealous of, because they do get incredibly bored of existing eternally and unchangingly in a world that like makes that very hard to enjoy.
Right.
and again, there's even kind of, I think, very much implication that, like, even when they go back to Valinor, like, it probably is really boring.
Well,
more like Valinor, or am I right?
Well, it's kind of this place where it's like, oh, like, you can't really aspire to anything. Like, the gods like run everything.
Yeah. Well, but I imagine
they're gonna do a better job than you because they're the gods.
Well, but the gods symphony, probably pretty good music,
probably slaps. It probably does.
I mean, I guess that's all I remember from the Silmarillion is like the symphony of the gods causing the world into being, and I imagine that's playing all the time. But maybe you'd get bored of it. I don't know.
Yeah, Mandos brings the bass drop.
Go over there in the first place.
Yeah, or like just
But also one more thing. Nate, I know you said you don't believe that any sentient being could live for 500 years and not get bored of it. And I'm just going to say, let me try it.
Sure.
I'll take that bet.
Make me an elf.
No, I mean,
as long as I don't just get 500, as long as I'm not just like rotting away after like the first 100 years and like can't move, I think I could find plenty to keep myself entertained with for 500 years. But again, I live in a world with television and video games, so
yes.
Well, I mean, you got to imagine if you're an elf and they're singing an elf song, it's probably as good as playing video games. But it's got to be at least as good.
Right.
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, obviously, we all wish we could see like the greats back in their prime, but in some ways, Paul McCartney, better guitarist than he was when he was 20, because he's had 70 more years to do it or whatever. You're an elf. You have 500 fucking years to learn to like play the lute. Man, you can really like play that lute.
You could shred the hell out of that lute. You sure could. And you could sit around asking yourself, why am I so good at the lute? And who cares? I don't know. It seems bleak.
Well, it's the only thing they have to do for fun, Nate.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Well, to men, he gave strange gifts, and they're good gifts. The gift of being done around between 80 and 105 is a perfectly fine gift. I'm more than happy to have been granted, because I think it's anyway. Let me know how it goes. Again, if it works
Nate,
out,
you are welcome to go to whatever Eru has planned for man. I am happy to have my spirit bound to Arda. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah. We're now witnessing.
I will diminish and go into the West and remain John.
This is a version of the dialogue that Claire was telling us about, where there's that cut dialogue where they're arguing about immortality, but it's you and you two. Being like, just let me try it. I'll try it.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, yeah. I think that's a point I'm probably gonna win. Just by virtue of precedent. But who's to say?
Some of us have faith in the great elf lord Brian Johnson solving the gift of man for us.
No, John, he is a flatterer and a deceiver. He assumes a pleasing shape like Sauron to confuse us. So, but really, I do not follow him. So.
He trips on his cloak and his butt falls out in his big stupid balls.
Yeah, everybody knew it was Sauron when that happened. He tripped and fell, and his junk came out of his cloak.
And they were like, that's evil junk. Oh. Hey, where'd that cock ring come from?
Yeah.
What's that? His penis.
Yeah, that was when Sauron was jailed. They took him back to Numenor for exposing himself, and then he corrupted them. That's how it happened. So.
Yeah, that was what Morgoth did. He invented kinky sex.
The Iron Crown. Wait, what? Yeah, what if not with a kinky sex object? So
yeah, it turns out the Nazgul, they're not actually like guys and like who are just like all black. They're wearing like those leather hoods.
Those leather like from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, they're wearing gimp suits.
Yeah.
They're all Sauron's gimps.
Yeah, Frodo puts on the ring and he just sees all of the gimp suits, and then
that's a better movie.
He just like
by far.
I mean, I will say like the mouth of Sauron from the Jackson movies does look like a Cenobite.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. He has big Cenobite energy, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the cooler
Yeah.
designs in that movie, especially like when you read the bok and it's just kind of like he's a guy.
Right.
But he's
right.
he's a goth guy.
Yeah,
he's
a goth guy.
Yeah.
I like the bit where like he says like, yeah, and Sauron's gonna they have to rebuild Isengard, and Sauron's gonna put a new guy in charge there. And they're like, and they totally see that he was thinking, I'm gonna be that guy.
Not a lot of subtlety to the old mouth of Sauron.
See, that was like another instance where like we had talked about how in what is it, the Nazgul city, it would be weird to see inside of it, and I feel like we go inside the evil orchestra and it's like, are people like arguing over like the Saruman promotion like in Mordor?
Yeah.
Like just or is it just like is the one black Numenorian being like, I hate working with all these orcs, like but anyway.
I wish I had my own spot.
Yeah, exactly.
I was promised a corner office in Barad-dûr with a window. What is this? The copier doesn't even work.
Yeah, what the fuck? Barad-dûr like transition to an open office plan?
Come on. Everybody
hot
knows it's
desking.
less efficient. When I was working from home, I slayed so many more elves and dwarves and people.
Yeah, I was using my Palantir. It was great.
I was much more efficient then, and I just can't get anybody to listen to me.
Oh man.
Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
Glad to have
this
you
is
here.
great.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed being
now
here.
that we have gone there, and guess what, boys? We're back again.
Honestly, I feel like we get some good riffs in. I feel like this is a great app. So I'm glad you could come on, Nate. Was there anything you wanted to plug? Anything you want listeners to check you out on?
Well, I mean, if you want to read some really interesting and awesome game criticism, and I don't feel any sense of self-indulgence saying that, because I don't write most of it. I just edit it a lot. I have a lot of really awesome people who write with me and produce what's, in my opinion, some of the coolest, most thought-provoking game writing that you'll find online. You can check us out at gamerswithglasses.com. I think that I'm really proud of the work that we do over there. Every October, we do a kind of monster video game, monster enemy themed sort of cycle of essays. And this year we're thinking about costumes, various types of costuming and ways that characters are masked or modeled in different ways that sort of promote or produce their monstrosity. So that's always really fun. I guess I can go ahead and drop the truth bomb that I made the music for this podcast.
Very good music as well. So
I hope so. I hope that you found it pleasing to listen to at the beginning, and that you'll find it pleasing to listen to later. But yes, I make a lot of different music. I release it on Bandcamp, and my Bandcamp URL is clownschooldropout.bandcamp.com, which is intentionally difficult to find because I just it's really more of a private personal hobby for me. But I did just put together an album of electric guitar music based on the Planets Suite by Gustav Holst.
it's very good.
Well, thanks. It has there's a quick little Johann Sebastian Bach piece in there as well. So that if you're into Bach, if you're into Holst, if you're into guitar, that's out there for you to check out too.
Yeah, definitely check it out, listeners. It is great stuff. So
we will have the links to those in the description for this episode, or these episodes, I should say, since I'm assuming we'll be splitting it up again. But yeah. Well, Nate, we'll have to have you on again sometime.
Hey, thank you. This was really fun.
A lot of fun.
I really, really appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back on to like talk about some more contemporary fantasy. Kind of hear your thoughts on what's going on now. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we will be back in probably a week's time in this case. But until then, I can't think of like a different thing to do with the ending that's Lord of the Rings themed. So whatever the Elvish word for Semper is, books.
Semper books.
I'm sorry, did you say simps for books? Is that what you said?
I mean, I'd accept that, but it's Semper books.
I hear simps for books. You can cut that in.
Thank you for listening to The Infinite Library. If you liked our show, we hope you'll subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the podcast app of your choice. Helps us a lot. If you want to follow us on social media, we can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Infinite Library Pod. If you'd like to contact our team directly with episode ideas or feedback, you can email us at infinitelibrarypod@gmail.com. Our intro music is by Amos Legend in the Forest of Mayhem. Our outro music is by DJ Daggy Diggs, and our logo was created by Lars Noir.